Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going over every single matchup in the NFL for week number 1, aside from Thursday Night Football, because that game already happened. We're going to be going in depth into each matchup for every single quarterback, and I'll be telling you guys whether I believe you should start or sit the quarterbacks in every single game. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help us out a ton. And if you would like to follow me on Twitter, please do so at Notorious FNTSY. Without further ado, let's get into this breakdown of the quarterbacks for week number 1. We begin the Sunday slate with the New Orleans Saints at the Atlanta Falcons. In this game, I love famous Jameis Winston. Now, Jameis Winston really does have the upside to finish as a top 12 quarterback on the week if everything does go right. Now, everything going right involves Michael Thomas playing as well as playing well here up against the Falcons. The Saints just have so many weapons for Jameis Winston. They have Michael Thomas again if he's healthy. They have Jarvis Landry, Chris Olave, and they have a safety valve of Alvin Kamara. This team's offensive weapons are amazing. So Jameis Winston certainly has big upside in this game, even though I've talked about this a lot over the last couple of videos, that I do think the Falcons are sneaky to potentially upset the Saints here. I think the Saints are going to win, but I think the Falcons could cover the spread. Again, I still like Jameis. I like his upside, but if Michael Thomas doesn't play, that really does hurt Jameis Winston a ton, in my opinion. If he doesn't play, he's probably closer to quarterback 18. And if Michael Thomas does play, you can talk yourself into Jameis Winston potentially finishing as a top 10 quarterback at the end of the week. For the Falcons, I think Marcus Mariota is going to be incredibly interesting this season if he is able to keep the starting job on the team. I think if Marcus Mariota is the starter, there are going to be a lot of games this season where you can talk yourself into Marcus Mariota with that rushing upside. I understand he only really has Kyle Pitts and Drake London to throw the ball to, but with those two key players, that Marcus Mariota could be incredibly interesting in softer matchups. This matchup is not a soft matchup. This Saints defense is legit. So Marcus Mariota will be on the bench for me, and I'm going to fire up Mr. Eat a W, famous Jameis Winston. Next up, we move to the Cleveland Browns going up against the Carolina Panthers in Carolina. And if you guys know anything about me, it's that I adore the revenge games. I love revenge game narratives. Now, this revenge game could go two ways. The first way is that Baker Mayfield absolutely goes scorched earth against the Browns and fucking tears them a new asshole because he's pissed that they got rid of him, and he's like, you know what, I'm much better than I played last year because of that injury, I'm better, and then he just beats the shit out of the Browns. There's also the other way that things could go, where Baker struggles because he's so angry that it ends up hurting him. He makes this game in his head be like the Super Bowl, and it screws him over. So one of two ways here. I think Baker's either going to go crazy or play like shit. I like Baker. I think this is a good game for him. But at the end of the day, is he a top 18 quarterback at the end of the week? Probably not. So I'm going to end up sitting him down. Jacoby Brissett is one of the, if not the worst starting quarterback in the National Football League. This guy is fucking atrocious. The Panthers defense is pretty solid in my book. So Jacoby Brissett is not a start. He's a sit. Same thing goes with Baker Mayfield. Next up, we move to the San Francisco 49ers at the Chicago Bears. Now, it seems like every day as we get closer and closer to Sunday, the reports are getting more and more negative on George Kittle. But you didn't draft Trey Lance because of George Kittle. You drafted him because of the immense amount of rushing upside that he has. Now, would I prefer George Kittle to play in this game if I had Trey Lance? Of course, I would prefer George Kittle, one of the best tight ends in the NFL, one of the best blocking tight ends in the NFL, to be in the game for Trey Lance. Of course, I would want that. But the fact that George Kittle isn't playing doesn't swing the pendulum to make Trey Lance some shitty start. I love Trey Lance regardless. The weather in this game is a little bit concerning, but again, the reason why you like Lance is because of the rushing upside. The Chicago Bears defense is not what it was a couple of years ago. The Chicago Bears defense is a pushover. I love Lance in this game. And how I'm talking about how I love Lance, the exact opposite for Fields. I think Fields could turn it around this year. I'm not out on Fields. I don't think anyone should be out on Fields, right? He played one season with the stooge Matt Nagy. But up against the 49ers defense, don't want anything to do with Fields, man. This is a bad spot for Justin Fields. Next up, we move to the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cincinnati Bengals. And I had a bit of a debate in my mind when I was deciding who's a start and who's a sit. The angel and the devil on my shoulder discussing Mitchell Trubisky in my brain. I like Mitch Trubisky, the king of kiss and titties. Mitch Trubisky, in my opinion, gets a bad rap. I think just like Justin Fields, he was screwed by Matt Nagy. I actually think Mitch Trubisky is a very talented player. Do I think he's like a top 12 quarterback in the NFL? No. But do I think he could be a serviceable starting quarterback this season and fend off small hands Kenny Pickett? Yes. The Bengals, they're known for their offense. I understand they have Eli Apple, who is burnt like toast. But this defense is still tough. So kind of like Mariota, where I'm thinking, ooh, this guy's a little sneaky. I think it's the same thing about Trubisky, but this matchup, just not ideal in my opinion. So I'm going to sit him down on the bench this week. But like I was mentioning with Mariota, like I said, there is going to be games this season where I talk up Mr. Kiss and Titties Trubisky. For the Bengals, Joe Shiesty, you draft him in the top 6, 7 rounds. Sometimes you even have to draft him in like the 5th round. You got to play Burrow. I understand this matchup isn't amazing against the Steelers. The Steelers have a pretty solid defense. They have great pass rush. Joe Burrow might struggle a bit in this game, but him struggling, he's probably like quarterback 12, 13, 14, like at worst. So even if he struggles, he's still worthy of a start. So I like Joe Burrow here, even though the matchup on paper isn't the greatest. Next up, we move to the Philadelphia Eagles at the Detroit Lions, and everyone and their mother loves the Lions this season because they were on Hard Knocks, and the Hard Knocks bump is legit. I remember a couple of years ago when the Browns were on Hard Knocks, Jarvis Landry's ADP kept moving, Baker Mayfield was getting talked up. It made sense, right? The Browns at that time were a very hyped up team. Same thing's happening with the Lions. Everyone is rooting for the Lions. I love the Lions. I've always been rooting for the Lions when Matthew Stafford was there. Now, I'm a Dolphins fan, but I've always been interested in the Lions because they've always been so dog shit that it was interesting in my head to be like, you know what? This underdog team, one day, they are going to be good. And I always root for that. So the Lions up against the Eagles. I hope the Lions win, but offensively, the Eagles are better. Defensively, the Eagles are better. Maybe the Lions special teams is better, and that's why they win this game. But the Eagles, I love Jalen Hurts here. Again, the same thing with Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty, we just talked about. You drafted him early. You're going to play him up against the Lions defense. This is a great matchup. Interesting to see in this game how much more they look to pass compared to last season. They brought in A.J. Brown for a reason, right? They're going to be passing the ball more. How much more is that going to be? Now, the Lions, on paper, if you took Jared Goff out of this and threw in just some middle-of-the-road quarterback. So instead of Goff, you throw in Kirk Cousins, and then people are like, holy shit. Wow, this Lions offense is amazing, because when everyone's healthy, they have Jamison Williams, one of the fastest players in the NFL, DJ Chark, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Swift, TJ Hawkinson. The skill position players on this team are legit. Jared Goff just isn't that good. Now, in better matchups, Goff's a start-worthy player. Not here, though, up against Philly. Next up, we move to the Indianapolis Colts at the Houston Texans. And if you guys were watching the videos all summer long, I love Davis Mills as a player. I think Davis Mills is highly underrated. He has a big neck, which is funny, right? He looks like a fucking giraffe. But I think he's a little bit better of a quarterback than people give him the credit for. Another butt, a big butt, like Kim Kardashian here. The Colts defense is really good. So this matchup, no bueno, as they say, for him up against the Colts. I'm sitting him down. Matty, ice, ice, baby. Dun, 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 dun. The issue here for Matt Ryan is that the Colts could literally win this game by running the ball 50 times. Just every play, hand the ball off to Jonathan Taylor. The guy rushed for 350 yards, 4 touchdowns. The game's over. You don't even have to throw the ball once. I literally believe that. Now, obviously, the Texans defense isn't that bad, so I don't actually believe that, but you get what I'm saying, right? They don't have to throw the ball to Perry Campbell, to Alec Pierce, to Michael Pittman to win this game. They just don't have to. But they're going to throw the ball. So Matt Ryan will have a pretty solid game. I just don't think even though this matchup is so juicy, I just don't really see him being a top 8 quarterback on the week, but still a start-worthy guy. Next up, we move to the New England Deflatriots at the Miami Dolphins, and Mystic Mac Jones looks like absolute shit. The reports out of camp are basically that Mac Jones couldn't read a goddamn children's book out there. Mac Jones looking like Ray Charles in the fucking pocket. Things are looking bad for Mac Jones. Now, could he turn it around? Definitely. The reason why I think Mac Jones is struggling is because the play calling is just ass. Play calling is terrible. So that's why Mac Jones is struggling. He doesn't have the greatest receiver corp, but I could see him playing good in other games. Mac Jones, since we've seen him enter the NFL last year, has struggled against the Miami Dolphins defense. The Miami Dolphins defense makes Mac Jones look like a little bitch. Now, I'm a Dolphins fan. Maybe a little biased there, but not really. I don't try to put any bias in my fantasy takes. I really think Mac Jones is going to struggle here, so I'm sitting him down. Tua Tagovailoa is a start, but he's not a top 12 start. He's like, if you're in a 14-team league, you play Tua. If you're in a bad spot at quarterback, you play Tua. You don't really expect a crazy amount here because the Patriots defense is tough, but I think Tua could throw for 2 touchdowns here and just be an all-right start at the end of the week. Next up, we move to the Baltimore Ravens at the New York Jumbo Jets. Here, we got another revenge game here, but this would be a fun revenge game in like 2015 if Joe Flacco was on the Jets, not in 2022, because Joe Flacco at this point, he's over the hump. He's got one foot into the retirement home. Shit just doesn't look good for Joe Flacco. Again, could he have an all-right game to throw the ball to Elijah Moore a bunch of times? I think so. I think Elijah Moore is going to get peppered in this game, but Joe Flacco is far from a top 24 quarterback. Like, the top 18 is really kind of the guys that I want to be targeting in fantasy. Joe Flacco's nowhere near there, so he's a sit. Lamar Jackson, obviously, this matchup is as soft as baby shit. I expect Lamar Jackson to go to pound town against the Jets in MetLife in Gotham. This is a very easy game for Lamar. Shouldn't worry at all. And if he doesn't get his contract, today's Friday, this is the contract deadline. If he doesn't get his contract, he's going to come out for blood. He's going to come out and absolutely demolish the Jets. I have a strong feeling about that. I love Lamar this week. He's my number 1 quarterback. Next up, we move to the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Washington Commanders. This is going to be a very interesting year for Trevor Lawrence because on paper, everyone's talking about how Trevor Lawrence, before the NFL draft, generational talent. This guy's the best quarterback to come out since Andrew Luck. And I watched a decent amount of Trevor Lawrence, and the guy looked amazing. The guy was fantastic at Clemson. But last year, with Urban Meyer, he struggled. But now Urban Meyer's gone, and they bring in Doug Peterson, who's pretty good. Doug Peterson is a pretty good head coach, in my opinion. Now, this could be a Carson Wentz revenge game, technically, going against Doug Peterson. I'm not going to make that narrative because I don't want to start Carson Wentz. But yeah, possible revenge game narrative here. 9-inch Nick Foles wins the Super Bowl for the Eagles when Wentz was there. Obviously, Wentz got hurt. But nevertheless, back into the actual importance of the video, Trevor Lawrence, I think, is going to step up this year. Commanders' defense isn't amazing. I think you could start Lawrence, but I want to just see it happen before I throw him out there, right? Before I catapult this motherfucker into my lineup. I want to see it happen because there were flashes, there actually were not very many flashes at all of greatness out of Lawrence last season. Carson Wentz, look, I'm going to be honest, Carson Wentz got so lucky last year. He got incredibly lucky. Like, every possible break went his way. The fact that the Colts offense was just so good was why Wentz didn't look like an absolute dumbass out there playing quarterback. Carson Wentz is atrocious. Carson Wentz is one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. There is no way in hell I'm starting him, even up against the Jacksonville Jaguars defense. Next up, we move to the New York Football Giants at the Les Titans matchup. But before we get on into things, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our sponsor over at Underdog Fantasy. They've been on your screen this whole entire video. So, you guys might know about Underdog. They've been a sponsor of a lot of these videos because they're best ball tournaments in the offseason. They had that crazy big Best Ball Mania 3 tournament, $10 million prize pool. But during the season, they also have best ball tournaments. They're just weekly. They are very, very fun to do. 6-person drafts with 6-player rosters. It is actually very interesting and is something that I am going to look to get into this week. They also offer higher or lower contests, which are basically like player props. For instance, I don't have an actual number here, but Derrick Henry, higher or lower than 88 rushing yards, and you make a kind of quote-unquote parlay with those. So Underdog is very interesting. They're not just this site that you can only play during the NFL offseason. You can play it during the regular season as well. So make sure you guys do check that out. If you use promo code Stokastic, you'll receive a $100 first match deposit bonus. So you deposit $100, you'll receive an additional $100 on there. I would definitely look to check that out. So next up, we move to, like I said, the Giants at the Les Titans. Here, I like Tannehill. This game is starting to worry me that the Giants are going to somehow win this game. I think Daniel Jones, during the season, has a lot of upside to, in positive matchups, be good. And I've said that about a couple of players in this video, but I really do think the rushing upside of Daniel Jones is very strong. And I also believe that the fact that Brian Daboll is the head coach there, he could really turn things around for Daniel Jones. Now, I'm not saying he's going to make some crazy Josh Allen leap, but he could be usable in fantasy. But here against the Titans defense, no bueno. No bueno for Daniel Jones. But I will play Tannehill again. I'm not super elated to play him, not ecstatic to play him, but he is start worthy in this game. Probably like quarterback 16 on the week again. Nothing awful, but he's not going to win you your week, but he's not going to screw you over. That's kind of how I view Tannehill this week. Next up, we move to the Kansas City Chiefs at the Arizona Cardinals. Do I even have to tell you to start Patrick Mahomes and the short king, Kyler Murray? This matchup screams points. This matchup reeks of a high-scoring game. Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, both drafted very early in fantasy drafts. Mahomes sometimes would go in like the third round. You draft him in the third round, you're going to play him. You draft Kyler Murray in the top 5 rounds, you're going to play him. This matchup is beautiful. These guys could be the number 1 and number 2 quarterback at the end of the week. Now, I did say Lamar Jackson is my number 1 quarterback, so I'm sticking to that. I think he is. But could one of these guys do it too? Yes. Again, I'm not going to sit here for 5 minutes fucking explaining why Patrick Mahomes and Kyler Murray are so good. You already know. Even if Kyler is without Rondale Moore and D-Hop, even if Rondale Moore can't play, I don't care. The matchup is so good. Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill is gone, blah, blah, blah. They still have Juju, MVS, McCole Hardman, Sky Moore, Travis Kelce. They have a lot of options. This game's going to be great. Next up, we move to, turn your volume down real quick, the Las Vegas Raiders at the LA Chargers here. Another game where I don't have to explain anything. I know Derek Carr doesn't get the hype up of a guy like Mahomes or Herbert or Kyler, but Derek Carr's pretty good. And this offense is really, 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 really good. They have Adams. They have Renfro. They have Waller. They have Josh Jacobs. Oh, Nick, you snuck Josh Jacobs in there. I think Josh Jacobs is a pretty talented player, but they have a lot of options to throw the football to. Chargers defense is good, so I'm not going to go crazy and be like, Carr, top 5 quarterback this week. But I love this matchup. This is going to be one of the funner ones on the week. Justin Herbert, the pervert. Again, a no-brainer start. You draft them super early. The Raiders' defense is pretty decent, but this game has all the makings to be a shootout. You're starting Justin Herbert, the pervert, as well as Derek Carr. Next up, we move to the Green Bay Packers at the Minnesota Vikings. Basically, all of the interesting games this week are at 4 o'clock, right? All the fun games. We just talked about 2 fun games in a row. This is another fun game, Packers at Vikings. This Packers team is very interesting. They lose Adams, obviously, we just talked about with the Raiders, but they, like, Lazard might play, might not play. They have some interesting receivers. They've got the king of week 1, Sammy Watkins. So this game could be good, could be really good. I'm still playing Rodgers even with the wide receiver confusion around the team. I don't think Rodgers necessarily like a primo lock of the fucking week, lock him in kind of player, but definitely going to play him, right? He's just so good. And even if the wide receivers aren't really eating, I think he's just going to dump the ball off to Aaron Jones or A.J. Dillon a million times if things aren't working. And hopefully Robert Tonyan can return as well. Kirk Cousins, you like that. The Vikings getting a lot of hype. New head coach. They're going to be passing the ball more, everyone's saying. If that's the case, Kirk Cousins could really have a top 12 year this year. So I like Kirk. Next up, we move to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Dallas Cowboys. Sunday night football. Are we buying this Giselle and Tom Brady marriage issues? Like, is Tom going to get a divorce? Giselle's pissed, allegedly, that Tampa Bay Tom wanted to come back to football. What does she expect, though? What does she expect? The guy's addicted to football. He doesn't fucking, I don't think he drinks or anything. I think he's like, basically just eats fucking guacamole or whatever that's called. Avocado bread. He does the TB12 diet, drinks water. Probably hasn't sniffed a soda in years. What did she expect? Come on now. But Tom against the Cowboys, you're going to play him. Tom, chef's kiss menu. Oh, I didn't even do the thing. I just kissed Tom Brady. Bet you he'd like that too, that sick fuck Tom Brady kissing his son. But at the end of the day here, Manu-Freak matchup for Tom Brady. I understand the Cowboys defense. Oh, the Cowboys defense pretty good. Whatever, man. You're still playing fucking Tom Brady here. He looked great against them last year. I like Tom. Dak Prescott, also a tough matchup defensively, obviously up against the Bucs for Dak Prescott. I understand he's without Michael Gallup. Very likely, I doubt Gallup's going to play. There's a lot of unknowns outside of CD Lamb on this team, but again, you gotta chase the high-scoring matchups, and Dak Prescott could be in the most high-scoring matchup of the week. Final game here, the Denver Broncos at the Seattle Seahawks. Geno Smith, my breakdown of Geno Smith is he sucks. I don't think there's much to say about Geno Smith. He's not very good. The Broncos defense is very good. Don't start him. There's going to be questions for good quarterbacks playing the Broncos defense that I might want to sit. Like, I'd probably sit Matt Ryan against the Broncos. And I think Matt Ryan's pretty good. So I would not start Geno Smith. Don't want him anywhere near this game. Russell Wilson, revenge game narrative. I don't think the revenge game gets to Russell Wilson. I think he's Joe Cool in the pocket. He'll be just fine. Russell Wilson up against the Seahawks. Going to have a great game. So thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. If you did end up enjoying, make sure you hit that like button as well as that subscribe button down below. It helps us out a ton. And if you would like to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. Make sure you check out Underdog Fantasy, promo code Stokastic for that $100 first match deposit bonus. I love you guys all so much. I hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, good boy.